Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome. It's Sunday morning here in London, and this is Lizzie and Justin from Thirdspace, and we are live for this week's Turning Towards Life. And we're going to begin in a moment, as we always do, with a source, a piece of writing, which our completely unrehearsed conversation will unfold from. And we're so incredibly lucky to have another wonderful piece written by you, Lizzie, which has got me thinking about all kinds of things over the last few days since I saw it. So thank you to you for that. And thank you to all of you who are joining us, whether you've been with us here for many weeks and months, or whether you're just coming into the orbit of this conversation. We are so glad to have you with us.
Really glad. And this opens up so many questions for me too. And reading it back just now, I can feel how big the world is that gets opened up of questions in this topic of asking for things, asking for help, asking for what we need. So I'm really glad to be in this, and thank you, Justin, for always being inspirable by something. Really grateful for that, and really grateful for everybody being here with us and wandering into this conversation with us. I know somebody already posted this morning saying they were going into a conversation today, that this conversation would be useful to hear and listen to in the context of what's coming. So I really hope that it serves people in whatever way it can. So here we go. It's called Making Requests. Ask for what I need. Requesting help. How vulnerable. My heart sits in another's hands. They can say no or turn away. They can say yes too. I'm afraid of rejection, of having needs. Do I even know what I need? Life taught me pretty well that independence is king. But it's the way to do life. But is it? What if depending on others is life, and allowing them to depend on me too? And so asking, responding, opening, turning inward and finding what's mine, and then asking, being in conversation, how brave I need to be, and how honoring of myself I need to be. Requests open up relationship, and then we have to swim in what gets made. And it may open the world, but things may also have to end. And all that needs to be okay to make the request in the first place. What a rip to head into relating this way. And I'm willing to take the risk and say yes to life.
Thank you, Lizzie. So I'm going to read it too. And then you can hear your words back, Lizzie. Making requests. Ask for what I need. Requesting help. How vulnerable. My heart sits in another's hands. They can say no or turn away. They can say yes too. I'm afraid of rejection, of having needs. Do I even know what I need? Life taught me pretty well that independence is king. It's the way to do life. But is it? What if depending on others is life? And allowing them to depend upon me too? And so asking, responding, opening, turning inward and finding what's mine, and then asking, being in conversation, how brave I need to be, and how honoring of myself I need to be. Requests open up relationship, and then we have to swim in what gets made. And it may open the world, but things may also have to end. And all that needs to be okay to make the request in the first place. What a rip to head into relating this way. And I'm willing to take this risk and say yes to life.
So Justin, this comes from, so you and I both know, Justin, that a big piece of our work in development with ourselves and others is this shift from the world is being done to me and I don't have any power, to finding more ground to really say what it is that I need, asking for things, making requests. And I often think I feel so kind of in receipt of that invitation. And then I find this part of me that wants to go into the process of, okay, well, if I start doing that, then what happens? You know, it's all very well to kind of say, let's make requests, and, you know, how do we do that? And what kind of requests do we want to make? And then when we do it, this whole something opens up that I feel like I want to be in more conversation about, because I've certainly been in relationships and have them now where just making a request is like a really hairy thing, because of course all of us know what's going to come. We kind of inherently feel the kind of relationships that we're in, so we know in ourselves lots of the time, and sometimes we can be wrong about it, but lots of the time we have a sense of, oh, if I ask that, this is what's going to come back. And some of that might be kind of learned something. Other times it's really true, other times it's really accurate, other times actually we get shocked because we ask and people say yes and we can't imagine that they would have ever said yes. But, you know, all of those things can happen. And it really always strikes me in my own making of requests just how vulnerable it is, because we're entering into an uncontrollable place. You know, we're so invested in having things work out the way that we need them to feel safe. And this, I think, is one of those really empowering but also really confronting notions that we can say what we need. We really can. And lots of the time, though, we've been in systems, families, communities, education systems, or whatever, where making requests really wasn't what we were conditioned to do. We were conditioned to go along with whatever was happening, because that's the easiest way that the people in the powerful positions could see, which was as if everybody complied, we'll all be fine. So I think that's why this is tricky, is because the systems that lots of us have been part of haven't been systems that were willing to accept a genuine request. And equally, when we were made requests of, we didn't really have the chance often to say no to things either. So, and without the presence of a yes and a no being possible, what is a request anyway? It's not really a request. It's a forceful something. It's a demand couched as a request. So I think the nature of requests really does open things up, and we never know what we're going to get back. So I think that's the vulnerability that I feel around it, and yet there's so much that comes from it. So it just feels like a really rich conversation, and this is intended to deepen my inquiry into it and to open up a conversation of, so yeah, when we do make requests, what happens then, and how do we keep making requests when we get knocked back? Or, you know, how do we manage the relationship that we open up by making a request?
It's such I'm so enjoying hearing you talk about this, Lizzie, because, well, it's just reminding me that this is one of those things in human life which looks so simple. Oh yeah, yeah, requests. It's just asking for stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so big. It opens up such huge territory.
Yeah.
Um, and I think this may be also, for all the reasons that you said, why many people and many of us have trouble with requests. I thought the way that you said it was very powerful. Was you showed us in your speaking that it's very, very easy to live a life in which we think we're making requests, but what we're doing are not actually requests. So they've got the sounds of requests. Would you, could you, I'd like you to. But actually they're really orders or demands. So I say it to you, I'm not actually entertaining the possibility, Lizzie, that you might say no, or you might have a question, or you might have a different way of coming at it. I really just want you to do the thing. And like you said, for all kinds of reasons, which are to do with the way power goes and to do with the way we try to look after things by having things go our way. Many of us, if we are bringing up young people get into this habit of they're not really requests. I just want you to get with the program. And so we learn that in our family systems, or if we say no in our family systems to what looks like a request, we very quickly find out it wasn't a request, it was a demand, and that a no is really deeply unwelcome. So we learn lots of unhelpful things about requests there. But the other thing that I was thinking about a lot whilst you were speaking and when you were reading was how I think another part of this is that requesting is very vulnerable for the requester. And so it makes sense, even though it's ultimately incredibly unhelpful, that when we are responsible for other people, like if we're an adult taking care of young people, it might feel terribly dangerous to really make a request and to find out that what I had in mind isn't going to happen because my children say no to me, for example. And also, I'm thinking about my own experience of working in organizations and now coaching people and doing lots of work in organizations in those settings where we feel vulnerable about our power. Do I have any power here? Do I have any control? It can be very, very difficult to make requests as well. And I've seen so many desperately painful situations where somebody who was really responsible for bringing something about that was going to call on making requests of lots of other people didn't make requests and somehow tried to get everybody to do what I want without ever indicating that I might have to ask you about it. And all of the mind reading that has to happen and all of the breakdowns that happen when I haven't said to you what I would like because I'm scared about what you might say if I ask you. And somehow a bridge between our worlds didn't get made that could get made. And so this part that you write that I'm talking about here is this thing where you say, making a genuine request may open the world, but also things may have to end. Stories I have about myself, stories I have about you, hopes I have, assumptions I have about the way things go, ways I'm defending myself against feeling vulnerable or uncertain or ashamed, or they may all be called into question if I take the risk of asking you something without knowing, as you said, without actually knowing what you're going to say. And yet, it's only when we can start to make genuine requests that we really have proper agency in the world, like the capacity to shape proper mutual relationships with one another, and the capacity to really have what we want to have come about only gets a chance once we start to do this.
Justin, as you're talking, it reminded me of a conversation I had last week with someone, and they were making a request of me. And I noticed how ashamed I felt because implicit in the request was, could you do this differently next time? Because this wasn't easy for me. So inside the request was also some feedback for me that I hadn't communicated as well as I needed to, as accurately as I needed to. It was about timings. And I felt this huge wave of shame come over me that I had done something that hurt this person, basically, that made their life difficult. And in that moment, it was a magical moment because I recognized that I could go down like a massive shame corridor and get completely all about me, of like, I'm a terrible person, what I've done, I've ruined this person's day because I didn't say what was going to happen. And, you know, I had this huge thing. And I thought, if I do that, because I was in this realm of wondering about requests and what the relationship needs to be in order for requests to be possible. I had that door open to me of going down the shame road. But what I realized was that if I became ashamed and made it all about me, this person was never going to request anything from me again, because they would then be hurting me by making the request. So I had a moment, and then I thought, I'm going to find the better path here. I'm going to find the better path of accepting responsibility, being really easy and kind on myself that I've made a mistake, and saying thank you, and telling them that I'm really okay. And I'm really grateful for the request because it means I could do something differently next time. And I really want this all to be fine between us. I really want us to have a working relationship that is functional. And I want us to continue loving each other just the way that we are without this changing anything. So I'm not going to go down my shame spiral. I'm going to stay here and I'm going to be open and undefended and accept that I made a mistake with kindness rather than do the thing I'm doing, because in doing the thing I could do, I might stop you from ever asking me anything again, which is the last thing I want, because I need to know the truth for this relationship to be healthy. So it was like this really cool moment of making a choice, seeing what's available, and realizing that there's a reason to not go down the shame spiral just for my own well-being. But it's not only about that. It's about what I make possible by acting the way I'm acting, and knowing that other people are like me, that they feel bad when they make me feel bad. So if I stay open and undefended in the face of the feedback from them, they go, oh, well, I could ask her that something else again. And, we can make this incrementally healthier by having these conversations, rather than, oh gosh, I can't go there because she was so devastated, I can't ask her anything again. Because she's going to just be ruined by it. So I'm just going to, I can't bear to hurt her. So I'm just not going to say anything again. And then I'll never know the truth about anything again, really. It will all just be this kind of ships in the night smoothing or something. So I feel like that was a really big eye opener for me about what impact I have on people and their capacity to make requests of me. It really matters how I respond and how defended I feel and how reactive I am and how much choice I have in that moment. That really impacts what happens in the future when things are asked of me. And I think that's the place that I can take responsibility more, in a way. Yes, I can make requests and see what happens, but I can't control whether someone goes down that shame spiral or not, or what happens there. But I do have agency over, when you ask me something, I can create the conditions for you to ask me again. And then maybe what happens is that you go, oh, well, they didn't react so badly last time. Maybe when they ask me, I could try and do the same. Like, it feels like a kind of, doesn't matter who goes first on not going down the chute. Like, we could teach each other inside relationship and even have this conversation with each other about when we make requests of each other, what what things can we talk about that might happen so that we can help each other in that moment and still make those requests.
That's such a powerful thing to do, Lizzie, to be in the conversation about requests with one another, to start to let on to the possibilities we can imagine that might happen and how we might respond to them, and also to let on to our inner something that's going on. Because I was so grateful for your way of talking about shame here, and about you're drawing attention to the possibility of care that we can have when we're someone who's requested, in what we do with our own inner process in how we respond, knowing that how we respond to the request greatly shapes the requester. And the reason I think that that's a big deal is because the shame spiral for many of us is just as present in the requester as well. Like, if I ask you something, if I say to you, Lizzie, could you please, and embedded in it is something wasn't working so well last time, but there's another way that would really help me in exactly the form that you said. I've potentially got a shame spiral thing going on already, even before I ask you, like, should I ask this? Is it okay to ask this? Will my request be welcomed? Will I get shamed for asking you this? You know, so I think that that's why this is very tender territory, the territory of requests for all of us. And so working on our own, maybe this is the big step that we have to make, is working with our own relationship to the parts of ourselves that feel ashamed is really important if we're going to be either requesters or if we're going to be good responders to requests, who don't just go, yes, 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 of course I'll do whatever you want because I feel so ashamed that you're even asking me this, or we go, no, 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 no. And I realized whilst you were talking that, sort of part of the dynamic for me has been, it less so now, has been that the sort of inner, the sort of image management thing that I spent, and is still present sometimes, for years and years and years, was being someone who would say yes to people. You'll love me if I say yes, I'll stay if you say yes. I'm the kind of person who'll say yes to you. So there are a couple of things about that. So first of all is, very often it would be very difficult to be requested because it would call me into all kinds of situations that I didn't want to say yes to. But the other thing is I became absolutely terrified of making requests to another person, because if the other person could say no, so I had two different things going on. One is, well, of course, that's going to mean that they'll have to say yes, because that's what I do. So I better be careful what I ask, because I don't want to be a burden on anyone, and I better not ask anyone. But the other thing is if I ask them and they say no, what will that mean? Because if I said no, I'd know it, I would get thrown out of this relationship. So if they say no, it must mean that something terrible is happening between us. So I better not ask anything of anybody ever, and hope that by hinting or mind reading or something, everyone would get what I was important. Or the other strategy is just don't have any needs, because if I don't have any needs, then I never have to be in this situation.
Yeah.
And well, it's very, and of course it's a very different world to be in a world where we can either trust a relationship enough that I can ask you and you could say no, but also where we can gradually learn to trust something bigger, which is, as you say in your writing, Lizzie, I could ask you and you might say, I might ask you something really important, and you say no, and that in some way shifts my understanding of our relationship. And then it really helps to be able to trust something bigger and deeper, so I don't have to make you into someone who will say yes in order to save all of my own fears about being rejected from happening.
I mean, this is the thing about this topic, is that it's so intricate. You know, I can feel like you just described like the intricacy of your inner world around this. And I know I have a super intricate one as well. And so I think what you said is right. You know, we can minimize this to, oh yes, making requests, but the world that gets made from making requests, and even if, you know, even considering dipping your toe into making requests is a huge big deal. It feels huge to me, like really, really, really big. Like, what if that was the only thing we studied, was how to make requests and then be in whatever it is that gets made by being requested of and being the maker of the request? It's so significant. And I think it's really requires faith to do this stuff. It's really a big thing to say, this is what I need. Please can you do this? Please can I have that? And it's funny, it's bringing back, I remember feeling really shocked once. Somebody said to me, I can't remember who it was, said, oh, I'm going to ask the children to do the washing up, but I'm really just preparing myself for the answer to be a no. Because I know that if I allow for there to be a no, when they say yes, they'll actually mean yes. But if I don't allow for the no, it'll just be this horrible, resentful horror show of the washing up. So I'm really going to prepare myself for there to be a no. And I remember thinking, oh, that's an interesting parental relationship where a no is okay. You know, when you think of all the ways that you know, we subtly kind of make things, make even making no a bad word. Like, for a child to say no, people go, oh gosh, you know, we don't want, you know, don't tell them the word no, because that means they'll never do what we tell them again. And actually that genuine no, funnily enough, is the thing that opens up the space for a genuine yes. And only in a genuine yes is there genuineness. So I feel like it's a really big game changer to be really comfortable with a no. And what, and then it makes me think, well, who do I need to be then for things to be that organic, if you like, to have that much faith that actually someone's no could be another person's yes, or will create a different situation, and be all right with that. Because it suggests that my version of events, like when I need you to say yes, my version of events is pretty small by comparison to what could happen. So it's like I have to reorient myself to what could happen rather than what I think should happen. And so then I get to be in receipt of your no and find some other creativity, some other way that's really also has to be okay. So who do I need to become for that to be really, really true? So that then you don't become Mr. Yes Man, because that's the only space I've made for you. is to say yes to me. And then if you are the yes man in my life because of the way I'm being with you, I actually don't even know who you are. So then what's the point in being in a relationship with you? So it's like a really big question of, do I truly want to know you? Do I really want to know who you are? This grand mystery of Justin. Am I interested in that? Or am I just interested in you becoming what I think you should be in this moment by being yes? And I think that's the question for me, really, is, and that's one I feel really passionately about, is I really do want to know you. I really do want to know what you need, and who you are, and what you like, and what you hate, and what makes you feel certain things. And so if I'm in service of really knowing you and really beholding you and creating the depth of relationship that actually I'm interested in when it comes down to it, I have to be available for your no, or your redirection, or your other suggestion, or your feedback, or whatever it is. So that depth of willingness to be in genuine relationship feels like the underpinning, like what generates the underpinning willingness for me to even be in this question is because I do want to know the truth about you. Because otherwise, what even is this anyway? It's just like a weird ships in the night thing of like transactional person to person praying we're compatible kind of thing, when actually most of us probably not very compatible. We have to be in relationship with each other.
Well, actually, if we're not willing to do what you just said, Lizzie, which is to get to know one another as we are and to be open to, like, I'll just say back what really touched me, just to hear you say this, was if you're really genuinely interested in being in relationship with me, you'll hear my no. You'll hear all the ways that I don't fit into your already existing expectations of me.
Yeah.
And I think that what a lot of us do for a long time is we're in a project to try and have the world work out exactly the way we want it to. So I have to be exactly the way that fits my image of myself. So let me never ever expose myself to anything. Let me never be vulnerable, all of that. But secretly, what we're also doing is, Lizzie, I so hope you'll be just the person. I've got a little sort of Lizzie shaped space in my life, and you'll be this way and this way and this way and this way, and you'll save me from feeling this and this and this and this, and you'll reinforce this and this in me. And as long as you fit into my image of you, everything's fine. And then I don't know you at all. I just know the image I've created of you. And what you said is the work is, so this is also true to say this to you, is I want to know you how you are, and I want to know you in all the ways you don't fit my already existing understanding, and that you don't fit into my plans, and you're not here as a supply for my needs. And at the same time, what that opens up is that we can genuinely be in a relationship. So I can ask you, I mean, this is the thing about being able to hear a no. I could make a request of you, and I can know because of all of that, that if you say yes, that means something. And that's really significant to ask another human and for them to say, yes, I care about you, I care about our relationship enough to want to say yes to you. What a tender gift that is every single time. Um, and as somebody who, I could hear as you were speaking that I spent so much of my life always saying yes to people's requests and not meaning them, but being so afraid that I would be thrown out if I didn't say yes, that the consequence was I said yes to hundreds of things that I never intended to do and had to find a way to not do without saying no to the person. So I'd forget it and hope they wouldn't notice, or I'd have some ridiculous excuse for why, oh yeah, I really meant it, but the car broke down, or the dog ate my homework, or like fabrications, all of which were a way actually that prevented me from being really known by people. And the tenderness of really being known, of being welcomed to respond as we are, and then to find truthful promises, because every request becomes a promise. If you ask me and I say yes, and I mean the promise and you accept it, we've deepened something between us that doesn't require us to be the same as one another. In fact, that allows us to meet one another in our variety, in our and our difference, and that is actually an extraordinarily beautiful thing to be able to do with one another.
It is. I think this word tender is the thing that I've been wanting for ages to bring to the conversation about requests. Because as soon as I hear any kind of technical speak around it, I just get catapulted into this world immediately. You know, it just feels like right here is where so much life could be felt, so much life could be seen, so much of our patterns can be seen. And there's so much to learn about ourselves here by stepping beyond the yes person, or actually stepping beyond the no person as well. You know, I think there's some of us who are like, the answer is always no until it's yes, which is completely the other way around. And either way, it's completely kind of tender territory. Because as you say, like, I love this thing that you said about you don't exist to supply me with what I need to bolster myself up as the person I think I am. I mean, that's just so brilliant. Because of course that's not what we're all for. I mean, when you say it, it's like a complete no-brainer that that's not what we're here for. But it becomes that, doesn't it? It's like I can find loads of places where things have become that. Where if you comply, you become a support for my self-image. I'm just recalling a time, actually. I mean, I haven't really been in the world very much with Vespa because, you know, she's born in this funny old time in, you know, we're in 2021, we're in a global pandemic. But when she was a bit smaller, I went once, we stopped in a pub somewhere to have a drink, and she started crying, and there was this couple next to us having a little quiet lunch. And I remember thinking, you need to stop crying, you need to stop crying, because these people's lunch is going to be ruined. And I mean, I very quickly kind of caught myself and thought, hold on a second, everyone was a baby, it's fine, da, da, da. But that part of me that's like, if this little girl doesn't stop crying and comply with my demand that she stops crying, those people are actually looking at me, and my self-image is diminished of like a person who's got their, you know, life together and can cope is completely ruined in that moment. And so then I'm making them way more important than this little person who's completely dependent on me and doesn't even know what a pub is, let alone a drink or a social situation. And so it can get really twisted, and I see this so much, and I really, really hope I find my way to work with myself as Vespa gets older. But like, to be a person maintaining their self-image in front of other people when you're parenting, like, that is like, oh my gosh, that's going to be a really interesting realm. And this is what that conversation is for me. It's a really important one, because the moment I'm trying to turn everybody into the way my image is managed in the social realms, I'm so horrible to them, really. I'm actually not the person I want to be with them at all. Like, trying to, you know, shut someone up because I care what people think of me. Like, that is so not the person that I want to be. And yet I can feel the pull of that, and I can feel how strong that can be for all of us. And I think that's where like shaming comes in and all kinds of things. I mean, it feels like a really big conversation, actually. And so this realm of requests and who we are to each other really seems like a deeply important, ongoing, forever kind of conversation. As I'm really grateful to be in it with you, Justin, and to delve into the realms of possibility in it. And again, you know, we say this often, I think we could just bring this source every week, do like a series on requests. Absolutely. And then just keep talking about it, because it just would generate a different conversation each time. Maybe that's quite a good experiment we should do one time. Just start the sources again and just do it all again. I'm just looking at our time though and realizing it's probably time for us to end today. But I feel really grateful for this. And I do want to keep talking about it, and maybe we can find another way and more sources around requests, because it feels like such an opening topic. So thank you, Justin. Thank you everyone for listening. And we'll be back again next week with our next source and next unplanned conversation to see where it goes. So thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Yes, thank you, Lizzie. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.